Hello and welcome to our live step 3. We have done 2 Baxter moments already. I was kind of hoping that we would get finally done with another one, but it turned out to be much longer than I had anticipated. My bad. So we will be covering... I don't know which one yet. But we'll be covering one of these things. You know what? Let's get Charity done out of the way with. That'll be our solo episode. I do not like Charity. Alternatively, I could do 3 in 1 video. We'll see how long Charity takes before I decide what I'm actually gonna do. Alright, let's get into it. Cove pushed himself to his feet from where he had been bent down in the sand, stretching out his back and groaning softly. A tired breath slipped past his lips as he wiped his brow, looking out over the shore. It looks great! And look at Cove! You stepped aside, joining in the surveying of the sand that almost seemed to sparkle beneath the midday sun. The 2 of you had been out on the beach since sunrise, cleaning up and down the beach looking for various debris, and the work had paid off. Using a hand to shield your eyes from the blinding rays, you glanced across the other way where other volunteers from the Orca were gathered. They were easily recognizable by the high-vis vests they wore. It looked as though everyone was about to wrap up things for the day. I'm happy to see you in a better state. It was pretty sad looking when we got here. The beaches of this town were practically your own personal backyard, and you visited them a lot. It felt good knowing that you were helping to take care of them. Too bad not everyone sees the joy in putting trash where it belongs. Oh well. Cove placed his hands on his hips, a pleased grin pulling at the corners of his mouth, as he admired the work you'd both done. You'd begun to realize during your time volunteering for the organization how seriously Cove took his service. It was easy to see that it was something important to him. You didn't want to be there, but you didn't know how to turn it down. Even if it was for a good cause, it just wasn't your kind of thing.
Not bad.
We did a nice job today. It's been a good year so far. It's crazy to think it's already time to push the big events. You let out a big breath, thinking of the formal dinner that Orca organized every year. Being a completely fundraising focused event for large donors, it was crucial for the organization's project in the year to come. You had to be over 18 to attend, so this was your first opportunity to see in person. All you had heard about it so far was that it's a prim and proper occasion with speeches and everything. You didn't know what to expect from it, as you weren't part of the group who planned the evening. Before the big night came around, the volunteers would have to sell their tickets for it, and that's where you'd be helping. I don't even really want to go. You looked out over the ocean, giving a small sigh. It doesn't sound like something I would enjoy. I can agree with you there, but it's part of the program. I just don't feel excited about attending a super formal meal with proper etiquette and stuff, you know? He threw his arms to the side, making a bit of a show of how ridiculous it seemed to him. I've got sand all over my room and only one nice shirt, and I go barefoot pretty much whenever I can. I'm gonna be so out of place. Yep, you'll definitely seem out of place there. Especially if you did actually decide to show up barefoot. You nodded your head at Cove's feet covered in sand, and he laughed lightly.
Right?
Wouldn't that be a sight? A small beeping noise came from Cove's patent pocket, and he pulled it out and glanced at the screen.
Huh?
Huh. It's the organizers. They've sent a text to the group. Time to call it a day here. Alright, ready to head to our next activity? Cove tucked his cell away eagerly and turned to you. Let's head over and drop the trash bags off at the trucks. Then we can drive back and join the ticket team. We're going to be there pretty soon to relieve them. With a stretch of the shore this long, the plan was to switch places with the other team who had been pushing tickets for the fundraising dinner halfway through. It'd be a 4 days of work, but it was Orca's largest event of the year, and all our hands on deck was to make sure it was a success. You ran off. You galloped down the wide open shore, sparing a quick glance over the back of your shoulder to make sure Cove was following. He was. He collected the trash bags spread along the way together. Heading across the beach to hoist them into the trucks before heading off to the next job. The drive back to your neighborhood and making your way to the shopping street was fairly quick, though Cove stressed a little about being late. Luckily, he was able to find a nice parking spot close to where you needed to be. You jumped out of the car and quickly went towards where you knew the group would be. Finally reaching the store that was set up to sell tickets, you stopped for a moment to catch your breath. That was quite the flurry of activity. It'll be your job for the rest of the afternoon to help sell tickets for the fundraising dinner. And looking around the street, you saw there were plenty of potential buyers out today. That would hopefully help move the tickets along. The stall itself was simple. A portable table with a few plush sea animals as decorations, and a banner stuck across the front. There were 2 volunteers who were already packing up and getting ready to head off to the beach. They gave both of you a friendly smile as you arrived. Hey, Cove. Hey, Cove. Hey, Callie. How'd things go at the beach?
Not bad.
It was good. The place is looking great. We're lucky to get a 2-for-1 when it comes to you guys. Cove rolled his eyes and then ran a hand through his seafoam-colored hair. Come on, we're not that clingy with each other. That's right, that's us. We're joined at the hip, some might say. Well, the volunteers chuckled and packed up the last of their stuff, and Cove seemed to relax a little more. The volunteers made room for you and Cove behind the table, while they circled around to the front of it. Thanks for coming in for a shift. We better make this quick so we can head off to the next place. No problem. What do you need us to do? We're ready for whatever is needed. One of the volunteers handed you a clipboard with all the details needed to sell tickets, while the other tossed a set of keys to Cove, which he caught with ease. Those are for the money and supply kit. Make sure to keep them on you at all times. Aside from handling cash for the tickets, there's also a form on the clipboard for guests to fill in their info. That way we know how many tickets we've sold, and who will be attending the event. There's a small script beneath that if you get stuck for what to say. And that's all about it. Pretty simple, huh?
Uh-huh.
I think we've got this. Satisfied that you knew what you were doing, the volunteers said their goodbyes and started walking away, leaving you and Cove to manage the stall all alone. The keys jingling in his hand as Cove waved them off, before he stuffed them into his pocket of his pants for safekeeping. Bye! Have fun! Once the volunteers were out of sight, Cove dropped down into the chair behind the counter with a sigh. We made it here just in time. It's cool we've traded place with nothing happening. They might have been late getting to cleanup duty. He leaned back in his seat, getting fully comfortable in the space, and gave you a small smile. You took the other seat. It was just a simple plastic chair that squeaked when you sat on it, but it gave you a good view of the street. I'm glad this work lets us at least rest in one place. Yeah, I really needed to get off my feet for 5 seconds. I rummaged around the station a little, picking up his stuffed toy orca, holding up in front of his face. You had to admit it was pretty cute, with his big bulging eyes and oversized flippers. Setting it back down on top of the table, Cove moved down to check out the rest of the stall, finding a cooler stashed beneath the table. When he pulled it out and opened the lid, you could see it was filled with half-melted ice cubes and about half a dozen water bottles. Grabbing one of the plastic bottles, he unscrewed the cap and took a long drink, with the condensation running alongside and onto his fingers.
So?
You want one? Cove set his water on his side of the table before pulling out another and holding it towards you. You accepted the water bottle. Thanks. After opening it, you took a drink and let out a satisfied sigh. You hadn't realized how thirsty you'd been, and it was always good to stay hydrated. The two of you got settled in easily. You took a chance to look over the paperwork on the clipboard. Cove joined you, leaning over your shoulder to get a better look. Seems like pretty standard stuff, he muttered, and you nodded quietly. It had been general info about the event and the work you needed to do at the stall, as well as the amount of tickets sold thus far, and the number remaining. Cove tapped a finger on the counter as he read quietly over the notes, muttering a few things now and then that you didn't fully hear. He seemed pretty content to be there, and you were sure the afternoon would pass by quickly. When he glanced towards the crowd and made a small sound, you followed his line of sight to see that a potential supporter was on their way over to the booth. You psyched yourself up. This could be your first ticket sale of the day. You had to give it all you had to make sure the event was a success. Hi, how are you doing today? I asked as the two of you manned the stall and as people approached. Your sales pitch would either be having them asking for a ticket or two, or heading off and mumbling, maybe next time. All in all, you managed to sell a decent amount of tickets, and you could tell that Cove was happy with the outcome. As the afternoon drifted along, 6 p.m. arrived, and pack up everything and head home for the evening. Your work with Orca was far from over, but right now there was only one thing left to do: attending the actual event. The days continued on in a normal flow, and before long, the night of the Orca fundraising dinner was upon you. It was early evening, and you were in your room getting ready as the minutes ticked closer and closer towards the time you needed to leave. You wanted some privacy, so you had locked yourself away on your own. Oh no. Liz was helping you pick out an outfit, Code was on speaker. I've done the top one and the bottom one. Let's have Liz help. Liz was helping you pick an outfit. You stood in front of her, considering different items, while she sat on the edge of your bed, lips pursed tight. She had given a firm yes or no to each item you showed her, which now reduced your options into a small pile to choose from. The event had strict guidelines, and you wouldn't be let in unless you were dressed to code. That meant having to find a truly professional outfit, but one that you were also happy with. You're happy to have the chance to dress up fancy. There are a couple of outfits that didn't nearly get as much use as you would have liked. Now's the time to show them off. You smiled as you picked your way through the items, your excitement shining bright.
That's fine.
You don't need to get too in your head thinking about the look, but you do need to hurry up and pick something. You laughed a little. It really shouldn't be this difficult to pick something out. You just need to take the plunge and do it. Taking a deep breath to refocus, you looked over the options one last time and deciding on an outfit quick. You chose a button-down shirt and a skirt, just like we did with the soiree. Sorry? Liz nodded in approval, clapping her hands together, satisfied.
Good.
Finally, we're making some progress. Standing in front of your mirror, you quietly assessed your outfit. You thought about adding an accessory or two. It needed a little extra something to finish it all off. Rummaging through the rest of your wardrobe, you picked out what you needed to complete your outfit. A watch. Grabbing your watch from your bedside table, you fastened it around your wrist and quickly checked the time. It was almost time to go. A ring. You can't leave the house without slipping that on. Holding your hand up to the light, you quietly admired the way it glinted. A pair of earrings. You hurried to put on a pair of earrings to match your outfit, aware that time was running short. Anklet. You had to quickly remove your shoes to slip the anklet on before stepping back into them again. A button vest. It was a formal event, after all, and you couldn't think of a better time to wear it. And that was everything. And with that, you asked Liz if she could put makeup on for you. Leaning up in front of the mirror again, you spoke over your shoulder. You think you can help with some makeup for tonight? Absolutely. I'll show you everything I know. You're welcome for that. Thank you. With that, Liz really got into gear. You worked deftly to apply all the details without holding you up too long. All while keeping you informed on what was happening to your face. Finally, you're dressed. It had all come together. Cove sent through a text saying that he was heading to the car and would see you in a bit. When you looked at Liz again, she had a goofy smile pulling out her lips. You look very nice, Callie. Thank you. And thanks for helping me out. I'm sure it wasn't easy. Liz laughed softly and ruffled your hair, but only barely, not enough to actually mess it up. You're right on that one, but you know I'm here whenever you need it. Liz pretended to wipe away a tear with her fingers, sniffling dramatically. Oh, precious Callie, you're really all grown up. It happened in the blink of an eye and I wasn't even looking. She chuckled to herself, nudging you towards the door. Alright. Time to get downstairs. Cove awaits. You carefully headed down the stairs and into the living room where your mums were waiting for your appearance. As you entered, they both stood from the couch and came over to you, smiling broadly. You look so wonderful, Callie.
Nice.
And very mature, too. I know, right? They continued to coo and fuss over you until you managed to brush them off. Matt took Mum by the arm and held her close, the two of them admiring you proudly. You enjoyed the attention. How'd you like my outfit? Another round of praise began, and you smiled happily to yourself. It was nice to be so lauded. Matt came in to give you one last hug, and before you knew it, another pair of arms was wrapped around you. Another third. Both Mom and Liz giggled as they hugged you tight. We hope you have so much fun tonight.
Have fun.
We won't wait up for you. Stay out as long as you need. You're old enough now. And with the last wave goodbye, you left your family and approached the front door. It was time. Stepping out into the night, you closed the door behind you gently and looked out across the street. Look at that boy, Cove! He looks amazing. Cove was standing there, as expected, next to the garage of his house, tapping away on his phone. He looked up at the sound of the door closing. Hey, Callie. Hey. I hope you're ready to do this. He took the chance to check over his outfit as he walked across the way to meet you. It was formal for sure, though he didn't feel overly posh. It made sense for him. He looked you over as well, a big smile on his face. I have no idea how you managed to make such an amazing transformation. He chuckled as you nudged him on the arm, rolling your eyes at his teasing. Your look is very nice too. You glanced over at him from head to toe, noticing that his shirt and pants and shoes were all shiny and new. Very nice indeed. He ducked his head a little to hide his expression, but you didn't need to see it to know that he was pleased that you had said so. Thanks. Then he shook his head, glancing back towards the garage, and throwing a thumb over his shoulder, spoke.
Come on.
We should probably get going. Don't want to be late to such a grown-up event, right? Yeah, let's go. You headed over to Cove's car. The other hopped in and strapping your seatbelts. You're on your way. The event was being held at your place. The event was being held at the place you had never been to before. You brought up the location on your phone to help Cove navigate there. It took some time to find the right address, and once you were there, you were met with the task of finding a parking spot. Though you were on time, it seemed like everyone else had already shown up and claimed the spaces. Eventually, you found a suitable place, and before realizing it, it required payment. Cove covered the amount, taking a ticket from the machine and leaving it on the dashboard of the car. Despite the small hold-up, you managed to ultimately make it to the event and confirm you're on the guest list, before being shown into the dining area. Oh wait, Cove, move out of the way a sec. Look how fancy this place is! Very nice, very nice. I do like the fishies. Cove whistled low as he looked around, taking in the extravagance of the room. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and the entire place was decked out with beautiful oceanic displays. You were stunned yourself. It was extremely high class, even more so than you had already expected. It's so overdone. From the lights and the crystals to the massive stage at the other end of the large room, this event had overkill written all over it. The sound of your names being called out echoed over the din of the room. When you looked around, you recognized a couple of the organization leaders looking your way. They approached you both in greeting, giving you a welcoming smile and hello. Cove, Callie, we're glad to see you could make it, especially after all the hard work you've done to help make this night happen.
Of course.
Definitely, I wasn't going to miss it. Hi. It was nice to see some familiar faces, and to feel so accepted here. Well, thank you for being part of the team. You're always welcome to help us out with activities whenever they come up. Thank you. Cove shrugged, then darted around the place with an awkward look.
So...
I guess we should talk to more people. There isn't much else to do at an event like this. You found your way into groups of people who were standing around, chatting, while some light music played in the background. Servers with large silver trays were gliding between the guests, offering drinks and canapes. Cove approached various people, and you as you wound your way through the guests, you managed broaching new conversations as well. You were enjoying talking to so many different people, both guests and members of the organization alike, and you found yourself enjoying the company. The sound of a microphone crackling from the podium at the other end of the room. Someone who you assumed must be the host for the evening was asking everyone to sit down in preparation for meal and speeches. You and Cove looked for your table, finding it easily enough by the little name cards that were placed delicately beside the napkins. A few others joined you at the table, though they weren't anyone that you recognized. The host was still speaking as people were settling, starting off the speeches by giving a welcome to everyone attending. She went on to provide some more information about Orca, which you suppose was for the guests who weren't part of the organization, and the purpose of the fundraiser tonight. Orca's goals, as she explained it, were to aid in the conservation and restoration of oceans and beaches. There were many people who had helped to make the group successful as it was. When she read off a list of several volunteers who worked on making the event happen, Cove was one of the first to come up. His chest puffed out in pride at that. Your name then came up a little further down the list. You're smiling ear to ear at the mention. As she continued to thank the large donors for the event, you checked over at Cove. He was still grinning happily to himself and tapping his fingers on the top of his knees, pretty pleased to have been mentioned by name. Aw, look at that bean. You laughed quietly at his reaction. It was good to see all his hard work paying off, but his giddiness was also funny. While the host continued speaking, multiple servers dressed in black were setting the first course of the menu in front of the guests. One of the servers set down a plate in front of you, and you thanked them quietly before looking over the dish with interest. You recognized the dish as a simple Caesar salad. The host quickly wrapped up at the end of her speech, thanking everyone once more before inviting you all to begin your meal. Anyone who had included a special dietary note when signing up for the event received either a vegan or vegetarian version, and there were also small baskets of bread set around the table. You just ate the salad. Cove wolfed down his salad before munching into a breadstick, quickly devouring that as well. I hope the next part comes out soon, and is bigger. You could hear him mumbling to himself as he reached over for another piece of bread. He glanced around the table and you followed his line of sight with curiosity, noting that everyone else was still eating the salad. Shoving his hand in midair, he quickly pulled it back and rested it on his lap without taking another breadstick after all. It was clear that he was starting to feel unsure of himself, and he looked a little out of place here. He folded his arms, then turned away from them to you. Hey, did you like the salad? You simply shrugged. It wasn't worth mentioning. His gaze purposely tunneled onto you, as if he was trying not to even think about what the rest of the table might be doing. He picked up a breadstick and gave it to Cove. It's okay. Oh, thank you. Cove spoke gently as he took the bread from your hand, looking choked up by your reassurance. He munched away on it happily, seeming much more at ease. It wasn't much longer until the main course was arriving, and various steak, chicken, and veggie dishes were being served throughout the room. An array of scents wafted through the room, making your mouth water. You had chosen chicken. A plate of perfectly roasted chicken and vegetables was set in front of you, with a delectable pale gravy. Cove had gone for a steak, and once he started to dig in, he was completely absorbed by his meal. You're going to choke if you keep inhaling your food like that. He retorted without even looking up from the dish. Most of the people can do CPR. They'll be fine. He shook his head in amusement as he continued fervently eating at the same pace. Dinner eventually ended, and last was dessert. A lemon sorbet that had been partially dyed blue. The mix of white with bold streaks of little blue made the mix of white with bold streaks of blue made the little scoop look like a ball of roaring ocean waves. The effect was very pretty, but the serving size was small, Perhaps it was the price to pay for the artistry. You turned to Cove to find him pouting at the little size of it. Digging into the dessert, it only took him a few bites to polish it off. Again, the other people around the table had barely even begun eating. An unimpressed air settled over him as he sat back in his chair, sipping at his water unhappily. You are such a big baby. You prodded him in the arm, laughing quietly. He looked up at you sheepishly, embarrassed that he had been caught sulking over such a thing. He found what for a defense.
I mean...
It was just really good. That's all. And now it's gone. But I'm okay. With a slight grin, he shrugged to show that he was really fine. You want my dessert? You pushed the dish towards him, and his eyes widened in surprise. He looked down at the dessert, and then back at you, as if wordlessly asking if you were really sure. It's okay. You can have it. He hesitated for a moment more before pulling the sorbet in front of him. A small smile tugged at his lips.
Thanks.
Thanks, Callie. You're welcome. He scooped up a spoonful of the treat and put it in his mouth, humming happily. You felt satisfied knowing he would enjoy it much more than you would. You leaned back in your chair, looking around quietly. After a moment or two, you felt Cove giving you a sidelong glance. He then took another spoonful of the Fox Ocean and held it for you. You ate the sorbet. Leaning forward, you ate the dessert off from his spoon, enjoying the bright citrusy taste on your tongue. It's good. Yeah. You thought back on the way he used to be so terrified of sharing his food with you, and now he hardly batted an eye. It was always amazing when you were struck with how he'd grown, and how he'd stayed the same. Another person from Orcus got up on the stage and made a speech as everyone was nearing their meal. They spoke mostly on individual projects that the organization was working on, and their plans for the near future, as well as encouraging anyone who was interested to consider volunteering. Cove bent forward over the table with his chin balancing on a hand, listening attentively to the words. As they came to a conclusion, and everyone gave them a round of applause, Cove caught your eye and smiled. You wondered what would happen now. And then the lights dimmed. A couple of spotlights came on, projecting a water-light effect around the room. The guests gushed over the ambience, and you looked around with wide eyes at the ripples on the walls. The DJ that had previously been playing some soft mood music in the background announced that the floor was open for dancing, slowly turning the volume up so it drifted through the space. When you glanced at Cove, his eyebrows had shot up, and he mumbled quietly. I didn't know there would be dancing, but I guess it makes sense now I think about it. He gave an awkward laugh as you both watched as people rose from their seats. It was now clear that many of the donors were couples. A small crowd had started to form on the dance floor, and the DJ played a romantic song to get everyone started off. Cove propped an elbow on the table again, smushing his cheek on his hand as he idly gazed at the float of the small sea gas. You want to dance, Cove? He raised an eyebrow, thinking the proposition over. After a moment, he smiled, his lips tilted crookily to the side. Alright, let's dance. You rose from your seat and followed Cove out onto the dance floor. When you found a spot for yourselves, you turned to him with a small smile. Holding his hands out at his side, he shrugged, unsure what to do with them. Deciding that you were the one needed to take the lead, he held a palm up for him. With a crooked smile and raise of his eyebrows, he slipped his hand into yours. It took some doing, but amidst your nervous laughter, you managed to find a comfortable enough position and set a rhythm to the music. It wasn't so bad after that. In fact, it was kind of fun, and Cove seemed content to continue dancing. A lot has happened, huh? You nodded faintly. You weren't sure if he meant just today, this summer, or your entire time knowing each other. But that didn't really matter. It was true either way. Thinking back on the years that you and Cove had been neighbors, it was difficult to try and reflect on it all at once.
I'm so glad.
I'm glad we ended up here. He gave you a soft look and you beamed, knowing that it also meant many things. But from his tone, you were certain he didn't only mean here, at this event. It was more than that. I think we have to tell your dad thanks. Probably. The party eventually started to wind down, and at last it came to an end. When the main lights turned on, you blinked against the brightness of them. Making sure you still had Cove in your sights. One final speaker came up to the podium on the stage, thanking all the guests for coming and wishing everyone a good night. It was bittersweet to see it come to a close. Your time with Cove here was precious. At least the memories could be brought with you. Given the space one more look, you walked together with Cove out to the parking lot. The other guests were doing the same, so you got stuck in a bit of a crowd. Though Cove was so tall you could always see him, and it was easy enough to not get separated. The parking lot itself was big, and even more noticeable was the view of cars blocking the view. It took a little while to actually locate Cove's car from its expanse. Eventually you found it, and the two of you bundled inside the vehicle and buckled up. The trip home was quiet, as you both silently reflected on the trip. The experience. The event had been the biggest night of the year for Orca, and now it was over just like that. Outside your window, the surroundings soon became familiar, and you found yourselves back in your neighborhood. Cove pulled the car into his driveway and put it in park before letting out a relieved breath. Home sweet home. Yeah. After climbing out of the car, you walked slowly down the road, Cove coming over to stand beside you. You stopped in the middle of the street, right between your house and his, and turned to him, finding him in the process of opening his mouth to speak. Strangely, he clamped his lips together, as though he suddenly thought better of it. Thank you for taking me tonight. Thanks for coming with me. You stepped in for a hug. You went forward and wrapped your arms around him, and he returned the gesture, squeezing tight.
Night.
Night, Callie. With a last wispy smile, he left towards his front door. Figuring you shouldn't linger on the street for too much longer, you crossed the remainder of the road and did the same. When you reached your house, you pulled out your keys and stuck them in the door, trying your best to be silent about it. Opening the door a crack, you turned back and looked at Cove from over your shoulder. Your eyebrows lifted in surprise to see he was doing the same, holding his front door open, waiting for you to go inside before he did. You shared an amused smile before you both slid into your own houses, locking the door behind you. It was quite late, and so everyone else was already asleep. As quiet as a mouse, you tiptoed up to your bedroom and changed out of your formal clothes into your pajamas. Now that you were finally home, you were exhausted. You brushed your teeth and got ready for bed in the darkness before crawling under the covers and letting out a heavy breath. I wonder what book is on our bed. Like, if I remove my PNG real quick, look at that book. I wonder what it is, or what book is at least similar to that. Quite interesting. It's just on our bed. It was still strange to think about how it was. The build up to the event had felt like so much. Now it was completely behind you. Your mind was busy with rapid yet muddled thoughts as you faded closer and closer to sleep. As unconsciousness crept upon you, you felt more content. It was a big deal, but there would be more in the future. You could accept what it had been, and you could dream about what you could experience next. And then you were taken away from dreams right back into reality by a sound. Your eyebrows pinched together, fully unprepared to be part of the waking world again. The day was over, and it had been an eventful one. But you heard another noise. It was tapping. Your eyes flew open. The window. There was tapping that came from your window. Cove Holden. You slowly forced yourself to get up. You dragged yourself out of bed. Your blanket was flung back. You rolled, then sunk to the floor. You froze for a second to let your half-asleep brain process in the fact that you were mostly on your feet now. There was another tap at the window. You shuffled towards the window. Something akin to a zombie. Literally, you opened the window and there was Cove. You blinked at him. You had not been surprised to find Cove awkwardly crouched on your window ledge. However, you were taken aback to see that he was a little overdressed. Cove hadn't changed out of his formal clothes. You also noticed that he was perched clumsily. You didn't know if that was because he was trying to keep his fancy clothes clean or if he felt weird about something. His body was too stiff and awkward. Even given that Cove was normally all thumbs, he looked off balance, significantly more than usual. Cove smiled sheepishly. Hi, Callie. It's nice to see you, Romeo. You moved aside and let him climb inside. He cautiously stepped down by stretching his legs over. Strangely, he didn't use his hands for support. It was clear to you now. He was holding something. When he was safely on his feet, he briefly checked out his clothes, twisting around to see the back of his pants. Who are you looking? And shrugged.
I mean...
I did go home after the event, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to settle down, so I walked back out. I needed fresh air and time away from everything. He paused for a moment and raised his clasped hands together, where you could see them. But then something happened, and, well, so I have something I want to show you. Cove grinned like a child and gently unfurled his fingers, not being able to keep you in suspense for even a minute. Carefully sitting was a tiny yellow light. It blinked on and off, then again. A firefly. Delicately, he moved his hand closer so you could see the creature better. The back. He closed his eyes, his smile now faintly illuminated by the insect companion. Remember the first time I caught one? I always will. I could barely manage anything because of that neon pink cast. I was stuck with all summer. You were still stunned by what was happening, but couldn't help snickering when Cove did. It was thanks to you that I finally held a firefly of my own. I was happy to. Honestly, I didn't think I would see them this year. I don't know why. It's just, they were kind of late, and I guess I've been worried about a lot of stuff lately. You could tell that the firefly genuinely lifted his spirits. He seemed at peace, and he wanted to share that with you. The fact that his first thought of discovering the fireflies was to come over and celebrate his joy with you made you suddenly feel very cherished. Cove opened his eyes, but he looked away, not meeting yours.
It's nice.
It's really nice, I think. Even if the fireflies disappear for a while, it doesn't mean they're really gone. They'll come back, and I can see them again. You smiled. And then you looked at the firefly keenly. There was definitely something poetic about them. You felt a warmth in your heart. Cove looked at you, his smile now fragile. It makes me think about the two of us. We're together, then we say goodbye, and then we're together again. Day after day, year after year, and even if our time apart gets longer, that doesn't make it forever. Hallie, I'll always be there, whenever you want me. Hallie, I'll always be there, whenever you want to see me. Cove. I'll always be there for you too. He ruffled his hair. You stepped around the firefly in his hand to reach him, but it still flew off, startled. Cove didn't seem to mind. He gladly accepted your affectionate fluff of his soft hair. Cove chuckled, suddenly shy. Then he put an arm around your neck, relaxed into the half hug. Cove looked at you, affection plain on his face. Hey, you want to go out to the hill? The fireflies are still there. Yeah. Cove brightened. He was practically bouncing at the thought of a secret excursion before he suddenly became bashful.
So
How should we leave? We could try the front door. We don't have to do the window thing. But maybe that'll bother your family. You both chuckled at how awkward it would be if your moms, or worse, Liz, saw that you were going on the midnight firefly catching trip. You'd sure want to avoid that. You could leave from your window. Let's go through the window. Both nodding in understanding. You grabbed some shoes and readied yourself for an adventure. You were glad that there was no way you could run into another soul outside. Cove would be way out of dress and you were still in your jammies. You let Cove go first. He stepped back onto the ledge as you carefully followed. He shuffled along as soon you reached the garage. You planned to use the fence from there to reach the ground. Cove shakily climbed down the fence and held it tightly with a death grip. He hesitated for a moment, and then let himself fall to the ground. He leaned against the fence and projected hushed words to where you were waiting.
Are you okay?
Do you want to help? You shook your head, no. You reached the ground with ease. It wasn't difficult, especially with the fence there to help you. Cove gave you an encouraging smile, but neither of you risked speaking yet. You briskly snuck behind the house and up to the old white poppy field. And up to the old white poppy hill. And Cove was right. The entire hill was lit up. Insects twinkling here and there with their pale yellow light. Cove let out a content sigh. Finally able to relax in full, he strode farther up the hill to better enjoy the view. You walked along as well, letting yourself be surrounded by the twinkling display. Then, without warning, Cove plopped on his back. He paid no mind to smacking his formal attire in the grass. He put an arm under his head and stretched the rest of his limbs out. He was clearly getting quite comfortable in the dirt there. You laid down in the grass. You sat down first, then fell back. You could see the stars when you looked up in the night sky. I wonder if Dad will be mad about the grass stains. He looked at the color of his shirt. He didn't sound concerned, just idly curious. Maybe you should figure out a way to clean it before he finds out. His smile bent a little, and it went silent between the two of you. Only his sounds were rustling of bugs in the breeze, and the faraway crashes of waves on the sea. You asked Cove if he wanted to catch fireflies. You should catch fireflies, don't you think? Cove turned his head towards you with a bent grin. I think that sounds like a plan. You smiled at each other, and then Cove rolled up his fancy sleeves. Then he clambered to his feet, full of bug-catching enthusiasm. You got up and brushed off your clothes. A pesky blade of grass tried to stay stuck to your back. With simultaneous nods of your heads, you both ran around the hill trying to take hold of the flying creatures. Every so often, one of you would succeed. Like the children you once were, you would race over to show the other one of your catch. What had actually changed? The fireflies were as bright as ever, and you laughed together the entire time. The hour grew late, and the fireflies mostly dispersed, only leaving a few stragglers remain. Until only a few stragglers remained. Even then, they blinked out of sight, leaving you alone with Cove and your thoughts. It felt as though this was a night that would never end, but you knew it would have to, all too soon. You were only grateful to have been a part of it. These were the moments to treasure, and you already knew you'd be remembering them for a very long time. And that was Charity. Oopsies. It already feels a little bit of a long episode. So we're gonna leave this one here. And I will see you in the next one. Bye for now!